This episode of Ticket Volume is brought to you by us, Invigate. Get service operations under control in no time. Get 1 free month of our software solution by going to try.invigate.com. Ticket Volume is proud to present a contributor to the book VeriSM, Unwrapped and Applied, and an expert reviewer for the book Competing in a Digital Future. He then got started in service management with roles in configuration management and service delivery for software, healthcare, and transportation organizations. He holds multiple certifications, including ITIL v3 and ITIL-4, and was the 6th person to obtain Agile Adapt's Digital Transformation Fundamentals certification. He has recently been named as DB Shanker's Head of Regional Service and Operations Management for the Americas. Welcome to Ticket Volume, news and information for improving IT experiences. I'm your host, Matt Barron, and I chat with different leaders each week to share insights on service management, technology, and basically just geek out. And this episode is going to be exactly that. I hope you're having a great day and week, and I also hope that you leave a comment or connect with us or share our podcast with someone. Get involved. Help us improve. Now, let's begin. Welcome to Ticket Volume, Alan Dixon.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, my pleasure, dude. My pleasure. I really want to thank you for taking the time to be here and meet with me. And congratulations on a new position, Head of Service Management for the region. It's always exciting to try new things and be moving in the right direction, right?
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
So let's get right into the nerd stuff. I want to get into the details right away. We're really trying to focus Ticket Volume on being something that people can listen to and get something from. And you're a major configuration management geek, right?
Yeah, that's where I got my start. That's where my passion is. I've branched out into some of the other processes, especially because of the positions I've held. But yeah, I got my feet in the pool with configuration management.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, especially I don't know, I know you've got kind of a network background, and I think if you've ever touched any of the infrastructure, you look at config and I think you see it as like a solution, like it can solve something for you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You look at it as with the big picture in mind. You and I were talking. We talked. Configuration management being the spine. That central nervous system of the rest of the process, the service management environment, or ecosystem, and it really is. When it's used correctly, it can be that central nervous system that feeds and gets information back and forth between the different processes.
Yeah, exactly. And so, of course, it's going to be related to these other processes. But what I'm really curious about is I think there's this unspoken desire when people first learn about the CMDB. And I don't know if it's just because we're nerds or we want data to be clean. We want that complete CMDB. We want it to be 100% accurate. And that's just not possible, right?
It's a management nightmare. You have to start with the old saying, eating an elephant one bite at a time. You cannot just say, I want the CMDB and I have to have all of these attributes. You have to pick and choose what's actually going to be valuable to, and a lot of people, they start off with incident management. Okay. So what's going to be valuable from the CMDB for an incident? Okay. Start there, start small. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is it going to be obviously, the name of the device, if you're talking hardware, that kind of thing, but don't, you may not need the full warranty information. It's good to have. Eventually you're going to want it, but you may not need that right out of the gate. So start with the absolute valuable stuff that you have to have, and then you can grow from there. You can always grow. But trying to wrap your hands around that beast, at the very beginning, you're going to basically get frustrated, and you're going to wind up at best with a partial inventory with a bunch of data points. And that's not what a CMDB is.
Yes. So, you have nailed it, dude. Start small. And one of the things that I've always noticed is that people, you're probably already doing CMDB to some extent, right? Like
Sure.
the Microsoft server guy, he either has a list of Microsoft servers that he cares about, or it's an Excel spreadsheet or
That's
something.
it. I was just fixing to say it's XL. That's where it's at.
Excel, the original CMDB.
That's right.
I think that's their tagline or their coming tagline. Where else do you look for that kind of information, like for configuration information?
Oh man. Obviously, like I said, the lists and stuff like that. But as soon as you put it in a spreadsheet, it's obsolete
Uh,
because things are changing constantly. Okay. Now, does a serial number change? No, but we've gotten into this virtual world where we have the virtual servers and we have the workspaces and stuff like that. We're just not a tangible item. So you have to have something that's going to consistently discover and then rediscover and capture
yeah.
that information. So you need something like a land sweeper, on the lower end, or some of the higher end products that are out there, because you just can't do this manually. We used to call that sneaker net, where you get your clipboard and you run around, or if you were lucky, you had the laptop with the spreadsheet, with the Excel already on it. But it was sneaker net. We just don't have time for that anymore. You have to have something that's automated, but then you have to get into the governance of the data too. Is the data right?
Yeah.
Is the data valuable? And how often do you update it? And that's a whole nother part of that process where you have to have that governance of kind of, how do we keep this data clean and not believable, but how do we keep it accurate? Okay, because the one thing I've run into, and this goes all the way back to when I first did configuration management, the moment that an engineer sees a piece of data that's incorrect, they will never trust the CMDB again. Okay, that's how important it is to have the data correct. Because if it doesn't match with his spreadsheet and what he just confirmed was right, he's not going to believe anything else, whether it's about an application, a document, a location, anything. So it's got to be automated for one, and it's got to be correct and trust, the trustworthiness of the data.
Yes.
So, and there are pieces of software applications out there that do that. They come with a cost. The more you want, the more you're going to pay.
Yeah.
So
That's so true.
right.
Yeah, you could hire someone and SneakerNet, in the days of Azure and Google Cloud, you literally can't walk into
No,
the data set anymore. They won't let you,
Exactly. Yeah.
So you need to have that information, and just like you said, you need to make sure that it's accurate and trustworthy, and that you can control it so that when it changes in the future, it's going to be reflected in your CMDB. And either that update is reflected or it's marked as out of date. Like, hey, we're missing this field because we just don't have discovery capabilities or whatever it is.
Right.
Communicate the accuracy of that data, because that, like you said, it's how you build trust in the system.
Exactly. Right. And if you don't have trust, you don't have anything.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You got to trust your applications. You got to trust your coworkers. You got to trust your company, and and your customers have to trust you. So whether your customers are internal users or external purchasers of a product, trust is huge.
So. Yeah. So is that where you usually see people starting on these journeys? Like, you're running service management now for this giant logistics company, and is the first person you go to kind of build your CMDB the asset manager? Is that where you start to like capture and gather that information?
That's some of the first conversations. Yeah. And you talk to your clients as well. What's important to your client. They're hiring you to perform a job. Obviously you want to deliver on that job. What is valuable to them? Okay. When it comes to I hate to say the inventory, because CMDB is much more than that. It's that relationship between all of the assets and how they work together. But if you don't talk to your client, your user, and know what they consider valuable, then you're just throwing things at them.
Yeah,
and
you're guessing.
You're guessing. You're thinking, oh, well, I think this is valuable, and that that has they may not care where the location of that server is, especially if it's in the cloud. It's important to you from a maintenance standpoint. They don't care. They care that it's up and running, and if you don't know that it's not there, so it's again, it's one of those. IT needs to include the business, and the business needs to include IT in that conversation. And again, we go back to the T word, trust.
Yeah.
And trust that we're actually delivering value that they actually want. It sounds like I'm espousing ITIL-4, but and value streams. Imagine that. But and that's where it starts. The trust, building that CMDB, or anything else, any other process, and delivering that value, because there's huge amounts of value in the CMDB if it's built correctly and includes the valuable data that's there. That's considered valuable for that environment. And what's valuable for environment A isn't always necessarily valuable in environment B. Okay, different companies need different things.
Yeah, and different services need different things. You
Absolutely.
might have a global service where you need to track, okay, let's make sure that we've got AWS servers in this region to perform this task. But there's going to be some services that are hyper localized. Maybe
Exactly.
you manage payroll in the US differently than you do in Asia.
Absolutely.
So,
right.
yeah, that's great. And you don't want to just track information because you can.
No,
It's always got that overhead. It's always got that management overhead and data overhead. So why track it if the customer doesn't think it's valuable?
Exactly.
Dude, this episode's already full of fire.
Sweet.
Okay, so we talked about it being related to other processes. And of course, we want the data to be clean and accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I get my assets in. I take that asset, I scan everything, I install our discovery agent on it, I get all the data from that server or that computer, and now I've got that in my CMDB. What do we do going forward? What is the primary process that CMDBs have to deal with?
They have to deal with, and this, if you don't mind, I'm going to back up for just a second. Yes, you do have your asset. You have your attributes on that asset. At that point, you have a great inventory. Okay. The relationships between that server and the database server that it talks to, so the database, the application, the web application, that relationship between all of these moving parts, okay, that is what I used to call the magic dust of the CMDB. And sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle too. Great, I've got 20,000 servers that I've got in the database. That's fantastic. Where do they talk to each other? What application is on that server? What service does that application provide? Okay, because you need to know that, and put your seatbelt on. We're about to segue. You need to know that when it gets to change management, because if you're going to do an update on a server, you need to know what applications are going to be impacted, whether they're down because of a reboot or whatever. You need to know what applications and what services those applications provide are going to be impacted during that change window. Okay.
Yes.
So that's how important it is to change management. Okay. Hugely important. Because you should, when somebody submits a change, they should be listing what CIs, configuration items, are part of that change.
Yes.
Okay. And if your CMDB is built correctly, they'll be able to see upstream and downstream from that CI what is impacted during that change window. So, and that's, I think a lot of times that's what gets lost in the explanation sometimes of the CMDB, or service and asset configuration management. If you want to go with that this time, it's that part that's so important, because if you don't have that, if you don't have those relationships, all you have is an inventory. And that's
Yes.
great for, checking the box and saying, yeah, I know it's out there. But if you don't know how it talks, and how data gets from point A to point B, then you're still kind of, in a kind of a nightmare situation, because that server goes down. The first question is going to be who's impacted and how bad is it?
Yeah. What service is it affecting?
Right. And there's times where I've seen, we don't know who's impacted because we're not sure what was on that server. That is a nightmare situation, So, and it could have been, oh, that's just the test database that, we were only using for staging last week. So, legitimately it's no big deal. But because you don't know, now you have a priority one critical incident because you don't know.
Yeah. Or you lost millions of dollars.
Or you lost millions of dollars. It was the email server that went.
Yeah.
Or, the online storefront,
E-commerce. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the if we continue the metaphor of the spine, like the CMDB is the spine, what we don't have is the luxury of doing open brain surgery on a service and having them talk while they're doing the thing to say, oh my gosh, that's the language center. We can't touch that part of the brain.
Exactly. Exactly.
There is no feedback that's going to do that unless the system goes down necessarily.
Exactly. Yeah. So that CMDB houses that central nervous system, that allows all the processes to have some type of input and output. You're absolutely right. Perfect. That's perfect.
It's
perfect
invisible. It's totally invisible. Like another metaphor or similar story, I guess, is if you've got a printer on your network and it's just printing stuff, and where is this coming from? No one can really tell unless you've got a good print server or print diagnostics, or if you've connected that in some way to say, like, look, these are the machines that connect to this printer. Here's how we know.
Exactly.
You don't think about that necessarily until you realize that you need to think about it. But this is so much of why compliance is asking for these kinds of things. Right. If I know what stuff is connected to, then I know, okay, this is HIPAA related, or this is SOX related. I know that I need to control these devices specifically and put more governance, more rigor into the chain.
Exactly. Right.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what is the best setup you've seen? Is there the best setup? What is the most complete CMDB that you've seen or experienced?
The most, man, that's a tough one. Because, so of course I want to say, well, it was the one I worked on years ago. It was perfect.
100%.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, everything was perfect on it. Nothing was wrong. And every time something went down, we knew about it. And we knew about what was impacted. I have to be honest. I don't think I've seen one that has really answered the call of being a good CMDB, a really good. And I've seen aspects of one, where a particular part of the network has been done, and it was, they spent, the time was spent doing it, and it was great. And then another priority came up.
Yeah.
And then, right now that's not, so resources get shifted. Sometimes they'll get shifted back, but it's almost pieces and parts, and, sometimes that's part of the business. You got to go where the business needs you. And you can sell this till you're blue in the face, but if you're not selling the value to the business isn't going to see the value.
Yes.
Until that critical P1 incident where you don't know what's on the server.
Yeah.
And then all the resources come back and they work on that part of the network and get that one done.
Yeah. Throw money at it until it's fixed.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, to answer your question, man, I've seen some partial ones that had a really good start. And some other ones that, got stuck in the inventory cycle.
Yeah.
And having something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Because you can't manage what you don't know you have, but it still needs to move forward.
Yeah.
Like the constant improvement cycle, get a little bit, put in place, get some feedback, tweak it, build it some more, get some feedback. So now we're talking agile. We're talking ITIL-4. We're talking, they all go together, just like the CMDB with the nervous system and all the processes. All of our different methodologies kind of work together too. And we need to, embrace that agile and ITIL can work together kind of thing. I just segued again. I didn't even mean to. Sorry.
You're a natural though.
Yeah,
and you're so spot on that there are pockets. There's going to be specific parts of the infrastructure team where they say, or they've got the experience. So like, this is the CMDB is important. We are going to put time into our work schedule to make sure that this fits in the project. And every time we make a change, we're going to follow that process because we need this sucker.
Right.
And then there's going to be other parts that are out of your social purview or out of your influence. And they're maybe not going to leverage it to the same degree. Maybe they've got a competing tool, right? Like I mentioned AWS earlier. They've got plenty of tools for visualizing their infrastructure. So, you're going to run into pockets like that unless you've got like an overarching authority over them.
Right. Yeah.
You have to.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of times you don't want to rule with an iron fist.
Yeah.
You want to have some leeway there, but having that kind of leeway speaks right to what you're talking about. Now you have to have all these different APIs that you're using to pull data in from multiple different resources, which that's a management obstacle as well.
Yeah.
But again, the other side of that is having one overarching one, and then that particular company stops making that product, or they get bought out, and that parent company stops making that product. Now you're tied to one thing, and the support's going to be gone. So you got to be very careful and judicious in who you work with and how you get that data back and forth.
That's such good advice, man. That is really, really good advice. And you don't want to rule with an iron fist. You want people to like their work.
Yeah, exactly.
And decide how they're going to do it, because otherwise but that is the new world order, right? Because so much has changed. I think over the last 10 years, app dev life cycles have sped up. With cloud computing, the amount of resources we go through, we're cycling servers every day.
Right.
And so you're always going to have this mountain of data that you're trying to kind of manage and ingest. And so, it's huge. That's how you keep up with the pace of change is the configuration management paradox.
Exactly. Because, you can pull in all of the information on your hardware. Let's just talk hardware for a second. You put all the information on the hardware, you'll never sift through that. And how are you going to present that in a way that's readable anyway? That would be, if you're using, a web interface to show the attributes on your hardware, and you've got 300 data points, the 6 or 7 that are actually valuable get lost.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe a bit facetious on 6 or 7. Obviously there's data points that we like, and, service has theirs, the customer has their, but they're going to get lost if you have a list that's 300 entries long or 3,000 entries long. It's even worse, so you have to have something that's readable, digestible to the right people. And maybe that means an interface for this group and an interface for this group. So they're seeing what they need as valuable. And again, that means you have to communicate to those different groups. Okay. What support sees as valuable is going to be completely different than what development sees as valuable.
Yeah.
And as far as, the different attributes and stuff.
And prioritize it. I love it. I'll rephrase it. You have high expectations of your vendors.
Yes.
Give this man a good UI.
It is, and we talk about, that's at that point, I'm a customer.
Yeah.
Customer experience. I mean, you talked to Nat a couple of weeks ago. He's all about talking about Nat Brown. He is absolutely, the quintessential, customer experience guru. Okay. Um, and we all know what we need. We just need somebody to provide it,
Yes.
but we need to voice our opinion as well in a polite way most of the time, at least first.
Yeah, when the bills are low, we'll be polite. We'll be
Right.
polite. So, when you think about configuration management, like, what do you think are some of the big opportunities or gaps that exist that you wish you could just wave a magic wand and fix it?
Discovery.
Well,
I wish there was a way, and there very well might be. I wish we could do discovery in a much more automated way without agents and stuff like that. I know there's some agentless stuff out there, but minimizing the bandwidth that it takes. I think AI is going to be huge. I think it could really be huge in this space.
no.
Um, I'm not an AI expert by any means, but what has transpired just in the last year or two with AI is phenomenal. Okay. And it's only going to do more.
Mhm.
So I think automating, and I think the governance, we could probably see AI performing the governance on the data as well. I think that would be, you put the criteria in place, and AI is going to do it faster than any human could. But we don't want to end up with the HAL 9000. So, um, but I think that is where we should start really looking to do utilizing AI in the CMDB space with the discovery, the governance, and then the population within the whatever interface we're using to present the data.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Just like you said, if there's 1,000 rows or 1,000 records, like, let's use a large language model to grok that, get through that sucker
right,
and show me what I need to see.
right.
Or in the governance side, like you were pointing out, this is brilliant, Alan, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to make a low risk change on this service. Show me which ones are low risk. How can
Right.
I do this, etc.? That's brilliant because it removes the bias,
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
human bias.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, you can't ask somebody, "Hey, is this a low risk change?" Well, yeah, of course it's a
It
low.
always is.
My changes are always low risk. Um, so you have to take that human interaction out, and you can't remove all human interaction. I mean, there has to be some type of oversight, but the mundane type minutia type things,
Mhm.
that's I think where AI could step in, and with the right criteria, you could in fact a easy one that you kind of just mentioned was analyzing the risk on a
Yeah.
change. That's with the CMDB done correctly, with the correct business rules in place on the applications and the servers and everything like that. Okay, AI, what's the risk on this change?
Yeah.
And it's going to come back and say, this is what's going to be impacted. Your lowest use per day is at this time. So if you're going to do it at this time, that's going to be the minimal number of people impacted.
Mm.
So now you're looking at potentially shifting change windows based on usage, not just necessarily an agreed upon maintenance window. And you can tell your clients, okay, look, you have minimal usage of this application between 2 and 3 on Tuesday.
Mhm.
It's the system is basically unused, so that's when we're going to do this change,
Mhm.
as opposed to a Saturday. Ticketmaster doesn't want you messing with their ticket sales on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that one too. That makes a lot of sense because no, I think it always comes down to complexity.
mhm,
Can I check all the systems? Can I check the logs for usage?
right,
You're throwing in that change plan and the backup plan on the change, and it's like, did I write it well enough? Did the change manager have the time to actually check that change plan? Is it accurate? Let's have an
mhm,
LLM. like review it and tell us, this is good, this is bad.
Right.
Yeah, there's tons of opportunity there.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, with you talking about change and meetings, I was like, I'm a big proponent of eliminating the cab.
Oh yeah.
Okay. The cab, it's a meeting. Certainly it's a meeting. Okay.
That's a problem.
But yeah, especially with our schedules. But the cab has become kind of just some talking points.
Yeah.
In a lot of places. I've done cab in a lot of different environments. Okay. And I'm thinking to be more agile, okay, with both a capital and a little a, to be able to move quicker, push those approvals to the groups that actually are doing the work with the communication to the people that are going to be impacted. Okay. Different environments are different. Obviously, it'll work some places, won't work other places. But if you start doing that, now you don't have to wait till Thursday for the cab so you can do all your stuff on Friday and Saturday. Now, okay, the customer has agreed, we're going to do it at 9:00 tonight. And it's a short, small change versus, this big, huge chunk of, updates.
Release.
Exactly. So, but do it without a cab.
Yeah.
And if there's a failed change, absolutely have a meeting.
Yeah.
And determine why. Okay. Gosh, that's almost sounds like problem management. Start asking why. But successful changes, fantastic. Maybe have once a month review our percentage of successful changes was 97%. For those that failed, this is what we've found. And this is how we're going to address those shortcomings in the future. So
it's common sense. Keep doing what works well and stop doing what doesn't.
There you go. Yeah. And stop doing the stuff that wastes people's time.
Yeah. Yeah. And change should always be happening. Like you said, it should be asynchronous. It should just be flowing like always. So talk to me a little bit about this digital transformation fundamentals certification. What is it? How did you hear about it?
Well, I heard about it. Johan Botha, he's down in South Africa with a company called Get It Right. Okay. And it's like Get IT Right. So that's kind of cool. He's CEO there. And I met him. He was one of the authors for VeriSM, actually. Okay. So I met him with, doing the Slack things and being on the phone and collaborating with a whole bunch of people all over the world. And then he decided he was going to write this digital transformation book, Competing in a Digital Age. I think that's what he's kind of flashed a cover because I want to make sure I get the title right. I
love it. Yeah, Competing in a Digital Age.
Competing in a Digital Future. That's what it is. So he wrote that, and I was lucky enough to help him do some reviews on it. Okay. And when it came time to do the certification thing, he reached out to some of the reviewers and we all kind of got together and did a little training thing. And it's all about this process that's not just IT. And that's what I love about it. I've been preaching for years that ITIL is great, okay, but it needs to be more than just IT, okay? It needs to be business. And of course, we have enterprise service management now, which is kind of, breaking down that IT wall that a lot of us encounter. Okay. And we encounter it going to the business encounters it coming back to us. And my screen just went black. Okay. I'm back. Great. Okay.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to Ticket Volume.
Yeah, we'll edit that in post. But I've been trying to keep the screen from going into a screensaver the whole time.
All good.
So, anyway, it's breaking down that barrier, that obstacle between the business and IT to allow what we know from IT, what we've experienced with processes and stuff, and share with them, and then vice versa. Okay. And there's 3 stages. There's 3 steps per stage. I'm not going to go into the minutia of it. Okay. But it's step by step. okay, for any company can knock this out. They really can. Larger companies may take a little bit longer to steer that ship, because it's just a big ship. Smaller companies, excuse me, will certainly be able to accomplish something a lot quicker. Okay, and see the results and get the payback from being able to make these changes throughout the entire business.
Right.
From IT to sales to HR to the marketing, that kind of thing. So it's enterprise wide as opposed to company wide. If you're not quite consider yourself an enterprise, company wide, and embraces the entire process. So it's really I think it's valuable. Of course, if I didn't think so, I wouldn't have sat in on the training and then got the cert. But it's in its infancy. We're still kind of gathering, those professionals together and then kind of expounding on it. That's why I'm kind of you were nice enough to let me to bring it up and let me talk about it a little bit. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. It sounds super
is.
valuable.
It is absolutely, because it's method method agnostic. It doesn't say this is ITIL and this is the way you go and push it out everywhere. It's ITIL. It's agile. It's all the other different methodologies, kind of just an amalgam of things that have been learned, and using these simple steps to walk it through until you get to that end result. And I suggest anybody that's interested. There's a couple of LinkedIn places that you can look it up. So.
Well, we'll try to get Johan on the podcast, right?
Absolutely, I think that would be fantastic, because obviously he's going to be able to speak to it better than I can. But and I know a lot of some of your previous guests had the certification as well.
Okay.
So I believe Dave Cannon.
Oh, nice.
Has got it. So he'll be certainly. He's always a good voice to listen to.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's and Dave Burrow.
Oh yeah.
Number 1 in the world. He was the first one that got the cert.
Love it.
So yay him.
Love it.
Yep.
Well, you're in good company. Okay. It has been great talking to you. How can people connect with you and learn more?
LinkedIn. That's reach out to me on LinkedIn. More than happy to connect to people. I always like to expand the network and listen to ideas and see what's out there and get input from people. So yeah, look me up on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alan. Thanks for being on Ticket Volume.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you, buddy.
And for our guests, did you know that you can join a live Ticket Volume episode? We hold them every month. So register today at ticketvolume.com and click on register. Thank you for listening. You can change and improve this podcast by DMing me, leaving a comment, or just shouting into the void. And speaking of Ticket Volume, did you know that this podcast is brought to you by Invigate, a fit-for-purpose service desk solution with integrated asset management and a CMDB designed to let you focus on supporting your organizations without arduous implementations and high cost of ownership. In fact, IT teams from Toyota, NASA, and McDonald's use Invigate to manage requests, automate workflows, and centralize inventory data. Because this way, they can focus on delivering better service. Because good service is good business.